tools we're going to be using today. You're going to need a breaker bar, maybe with a pole to make it longer, a 42 millimeter socket, a rubber mallet or hammer, flathead, maybe a couple flatheads, ratchet with a, what size was this? Ratchet with a 13 millimeter socket, a 19 millimeter socket, that's for the lug nuts, getting the wheel off. You'll need an 11 millimeter wrench. I'm using my flange wrench. If you want to bleed it, which you'll probably need to afterwards, you'll need a 7 millimeter. And then a pair of pliers, doesn't hurt. Definitely going to need the needlenose for the cotter pin. And then depending on the condition of your cotter pin, you might need to get a new one for that as well. I'm reusing the one I put on here is almost new, so I'm just going to go ahead and reuse it. The drum brake cylinder, which is the part right at the top there. It's going sideways, that little cylinder looking piece. So to start, on a untouched brake cylinder or wheel, whatever, you would jack this up. You're going to need a 19 millimeter socket to take off the lug nuts. Then once you take the wheel off, you'll need a 46 millimeter socket to get the castle nut off. Of course, you'll need pliers to take out the cotter pin, and then the 46 millimeter, get that out. The first time I used it, or took off the other side, I had to use a torch, so your mileage might vary. Now, in addition to all this, a tip that I found, come up to the driver's side, and on your reservoir for your brake and clutch fluid, right here, I took the cap off and put some plastic to cover it, and then put the cap back on. That way no air goes through, and it'll hopefully mean that I don't have to put as much fluid in afterwards and won't have to bleed it nearly as much, because ideally this will keep any vacuum from happening and we'll just keep the fluid where it's at. So we'll test that, see how that goes. Let's go ahead and get started. So as soon as you take the wheel off, the drum's obviously going to be all the way back here. There's not going to be this gap, and you'll have the castle nut on here, which I've taken off. Right now the shoes are preventing me from putting the drum on, but as soon as you get that castle nut off, the drum should come off. If it's stuck on there, just take like a rubber mallet or a hammer of some kind and kind of tap it around the edge. Make sure you don't have the brakes engaged. Just put it in gear, and hopefully it should just slide off if everything's going right. If not, there are these two little holes here that you can actually put a bolt through. You put one in each hole, and it's supposed to help push the drum brake off, or the drum. So now we're inside the brake here. We've got the cylinder we're trying to replace, all these springs and mechanisms and stuff. Another thing to keep in mind is that you only want to do one at a time. It doesn't hurt to take the other one off, take the drum apart so that you can see inside. So if you mess around with this one and you lose track of where you're at, you can reference the other side and put it back together exactly as that one is. Of course, just mirrored, but you get the idea. What I'm going to start with is there's the brake line right here. It's bolted into the back of the cylinder. I'm going to unbolt that with the 11 millimeter flange wrench. We'll undo that and then see if it comes out, or if I have to move any other parts out of the way. So we'll start with that. Once you take the brake line off of the cylinder from the back side with the 11 millimeter, then go ahead and grab a 13 millimeter. I got a ratchet, socket and ratchet. There's a bolt, I don't know if you can see. So you'll go ahead and break that loose. Once that's loose, hopefully we'll see if we can get the cylinder out. Doesn't hurt to spray some liquid wrench, PB blaster, whatever on there. There you go. So what I did right there probably was in the way. So once it's sitting in there, you have the brake line out, you've got the brake line out, you've got the bolt out, and it's sitting in there. You have these grooves on either side that the shoes are sitting in. So I just got a screwdriver, kind of pushed it out of the way a little bit. There's a hole that you can feed it through on either side. Pushed it out of the way so that this shoe was not in this groove anymore. That gave me enough room to just twist it, get this one out, and then this plate is in the way since I didn't take anything apart, and just twisted the whole thing around and got it out. So we have that out. I'm going to get some brake cleaner, clean that up a little bit since I've got more room to play in there, and cross our fingers, hopefully we can just do the opposite and twist the new one right in. After getting the new brake cylinder inside the drum, bleeding the system so that it's all good to go, cleaning everything up, put the drum back on and it feels good, then go ahead and throw the wheel back on, throw that castle nut on, and then got the cotter pin in. I don't have a torque wrench with me right now, so I just got it as tight on there as I can by hand, and then threw the cotter pin on for the time being until I can get a torque wrench, make sure that it's on there, again, I think at 350 foot-pounds. Gonna go ahead and throw the lug nuts back on, and we'll be good to go. Tried to keep this one quick and simple as much as I can. Throw any comments or questions that you have my way. I appreciate any feedback I can get, positive or negative. And thanks for checking out the video. Good luck on your vans, everyone.